Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inside Gators Basketball with UFL. I'm Sean Kelley, the voice of the Gators, and we're linked up with Gators head coach Todd Golden as the Gators just are now finding themselves in the early portion, a quarter of the way through the SEC schedule, basically. Winners of three straight, two overranked teams, and most recently a road win, the first true road win of the year at Oklahoma. And, Coach, it's been a dominant run here for the Gators of late. And seemingly the team has found their footing here through these first four games in conference play.
Well, we're certainly playing better. I feel like after the Missouri loss, we had to come home and kind of get our feet on solid ground. And as we talked about, last week, playing Georgia and Tennessee, we knew it was going to be a big week in terms of the direction of our season and the direction of conference play. And I feel like we played three really great games in a row. The Tennessee game obviously was a huge, huge step in the right direction for us, playing 40 minutes. We talk about playing complete games. I felt like that was as close as we've had to playing one of those all year. Boogie's stepping up and playing some really good ball. And, we talk about kind of checking off different, thresholds of, us making that next step as a group. And, winning two ranked games at home was huge. But, I think the win on the road at Oklahoma cannot be understated as well. I thought we played a great first half in that ball game.
Coach, that first half kind of encapsulated a lot of the things that you just touched upon, and it utilized the strengths of your team as well. In some ways, I feel like this team has found its identity during this three-game winning streak.
I feel like we're getting much more comfortable in that regard for sure. And obviously, it helps when guys are playing really well. And you look at Ruben Chinyelu and everything that he's been able to do over the season, but especially over these last couple weeks. Consistent double-double threat. And we're not talking 10 and 10 here. We're talking 17 and 16, 19, 12, stacking some real numbers. Boogie's. Obviously what he's been able to do and his efficient output over these last couple games has really raised our floor. And, I think everybody's kind of settled into their role. Even Isaiah Brown, kind of stepping up, being that eighth man has really solidified our rotation, which has allowed every guy that's playing to be a lot more comfortable out there.
Coach, let's take some of those guys kind of individually. Let's start with Boogie Fland. And I know it's somewhat adorable about the haircut and whatnot, but in some ways the haircut signified a moment in time for him. He described it as a fresh start, a way to kind of reset his season in some ways. Did you see it that way? Was there a mark in time here for him to kind of get to the player that we kind of saw in him all along?
Yeah, I think he honestly overall he's had a solid season, and over the last couple of weeks he's been great. And I think when you come in with the expectation being so high, not only is there a lot of pressure from the outside, but high achieving guys will put pressure on themselves too. And I think he did that and too much, over the beginning of the year. And I felt like after the Georgia game, whether the haircut signifies anything more than just him being like, hey, at this point, I'm just gonna go hoop and see what happens. Tennessee game, he was fantastic. I thought his defense was really what set the tone and getting those steals that we turned into offense. And that was kind of the breakout moment for our team where we saw, all right, if we really guard and rebound and play with this physicality and turn that into offense, we have an opportunity to be special. And that middle 20 minutes of that ball game, he was about as good as you could ever ask somebody to play. And he continued it in that Oklahoma game as well. I thought his floor game was great. 7 assists, 1 turnover, big three in the first half against the late clock, and did a great job finishing around the rim as well, where he's made a big jump this season.
Coach, that you mentioned the assist in Oklahoma. That's kind of the stat that kind of caught me a little bit by surprise. In Boogie now is starting to stack games where he's had 5 or more assists. And maybe I just wasn't noticing enough, but boy, that does sure help your team in a lot of ways because it's been hard to find that consistent assist leader. Guys have taken turns at it, and you've got a 4 that's second on your team in assists. But now it seems Boogie has established himself as also wanting to help others make plays, including himself.
Yeah, no, he's done a great job. I think since after Christmas, I think he has a 30-9 assist to turnover ratio or something along those lines. Obviously, a majority of those coming in conference play. And his teammates are helping him out more as well. They're making some shots, and that's allowing his assist numbers to rise. But his connection with our front court, specifically Ruben, I feel like has really taken off over these last couple weeks. Him and X being able to find Ruben more around the rim and in the paint for easy twos for him has been a big reason why we've been able to increase those assist numbers across the board.
Let's talk about Ruben Chinyelu. These are video game numbers, like you said, not just double doubles, like freakish double doubles. Coach, has there been some big jump here, or what's allowed him to stack big games like this now consecutively?
Well, I think the biggest thing, for him specifically, but for us as a team, is we've seen a steady increase in our play, correlated with the amount of possessions that Ruben uses, and he's been able to use more possessions, really take more shots, get to the line more over this last month, and not only has he been able to do that, but he's been able to do it really efficiently as well, and just been fantastic in him, kind of elevating his game in that regard has made everybody else's life easier and just really made our team a lot better. But his last two games, my goodness, the jump that he's made with these double doubles, and not only from an offensive and rebounding perspective, but his defense has been fantastic as well. And I think you're seeing a guy that has always kind of oozed with potential, and you kind of wonder when the skill and the production is going to catch up to it on the offensive end. Well, I think it's happening in real time.
Thomas Houck just recorded his seventh game of 20 or more points. He's now projected as an NBA lottery pick, somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. Coach, the competition's gotten better as the season's progressed. Like, you've moved now into conference play. You have two top 25 wins in your last three wins. Seemingly, you'd think things would level out, right? Instead, he keeps trajecting higher and higher with each game that he plays. Will you help me appreciate a little bit more about the player that Thomas Houck has become?
It's been magical, really, to see the way he's improved, consistently since he first got on campus. And to your point, he's had a great season. He's been incredibly consistent, and we never really expected him to be able to play better, once we got into league play. But his offensive efficiency on the year has been about 125, and now it's up to 135. And a big part of it is he's shooting 58% from two, 56% from two in league play. 38% from three, making his free throws, shooting 85%. He's not turning the ball over. He's just doing everything that a winning player does, as well as guarding really well on the wing. But, I feel like Tommy's, improved his play. Kondo has improved his play. Ruben's improved his play. And that front line has given us, with Micah playing really well in that Oklahoma game as well, is giving us everything that we could have hoped for from them.
All right, Coach, let's go to the category of this doesn't make sense, if you don't mind. How does a team that has struggled, and we've been honest about this, shooting the three-point shot, have 90 or more points in six of their last seven games? And if everything holds, you'd set a new program record that you all set 2 seasons ago in points per game. Those two things in this day and age of college basketball don't jive very well, but yet you're scoring without one of the big, I guess, tools in the toolbox.
Well, we knew with this team that we were going to be unique in terms of the way, basketball is thought of this day and age, and especially in college, because we're big and we play with a lot of big guys on the floor. And we felt like it would take a little bit to get comfortable moving Tommy to the three and Kondo primarily at the four, Ruben and Micah and new guards. And it did. It took us a while to get really comfortable and figure out exactly the style of play that we needed to try to execute with this group. But really, over these last couple of weeks, you've seen it. What our blueprint is work out really well, and for this team, taking care of the ball is a really, really big part of it. Another game this past week with under 10 turnovers. We've been really good that way since the league play has started. We've done a good job getting to the foul line, and not only getting to the foul line, but taking advantage of those opportunities in conference play. We're shooting around 75% from the line, which is much improved. And our rebounding has really shown up after a Missouri game where we weren't as good as we needed to be. We've dominated the boards these last three games, and that's the thing that provides this really high floor for us. Obviously we talked about Boogie a lot. He's playing better offensively, which again gives us another area to really kind of extend our offensive efficiency. And when we do make some shots, like Tennessee game, we made 9 threes. We're going to really, be able to run out on some people. So again, that high floor and the way we play, and our team has done a really good job of executing that offensive game plan.
And you've helped me make more sense of that. So thank you. I appreciate that. Coach, our play breakdowns each week are brought to you by Tower Hill Insurance. And I want to zero in on two games specifically. First, the Tennessee game. And we talked about how dominant Ruben Chinyelu was with his double-double. Coach, if you're going to help us examine the mechanics of where you're placing Ruben to succeed or what he's doing on his own, can you help us understand, like, for instance, like getting him to his left shoulder where he really likes to excel around the restricted area? or the fact that he's been able to play maybe even a little further out from the basket. In that game specifically, Coach, when you think about some of those key plays from Ruben, what comes to mind?
Well, the two areas in the Tennessee game specifically where I thought he was just absolutely dominant, on the glass, as we talked about, and in terms of finding him in scoring zones and scoring areas, he got 4 offensive rebounds. And, when he gets those second chance opportunities around the rim, he does a great job of capitalizing on those on his own. So that's one area specifically. And then I think we did a really good job, especially in the second half, of finding him low post catches on that left block. There was that stretch where we felt like we were right on the heels of kind of closing the door on that game, and we found him 2 or 3 post-ups on that block where he was able to get middle against Tennessee and get to that left shoulder hook with his right hand, where, at this point it has become relatively unstoppable. His ability to elevate, get over his defender, and finish over size. And, his growth in those areas has made him such a more impactful player. And it's allowed us to get him catches in different areas where he's been able to take advantage of it.
Coach, in the Oklahoma game, we talked about how outstanding the first half was, and it showcased a couple of different things: defense leading to offense, Condon's now ability, as we mentioned earlier, to be a playmaker, and where he's found some spaces that give him success. When you think about key plays during that run, during that first half, what comes to mind?
A lot of the same, for Kondo specifically, we've had incredibly efficient possessions when we can get him catches on that left blocker in that mid post. And the advantage of playing bigger is when you're matching up against teams and they're trying to figure out how they want to guard us, they're going to put their biggest guy in Ruben because it's hard to live with somebody trying to block him out or keep him off the, out of the paint. And then so their second biggest guy generally is going to guard Kondo. And, some teams might have a 6'10 guy, but most teams are going to have a 6'7, 6'8 guy at the 4, that's not as physically imposing as Kondo. And, you can't really guard him one-on-one because he's going to find a way to put the ball in the basket and score on you. And so what showed up a lot is teams are trying to double team him and get the ball out of his hands. And, credit to Kondo because he's been incredibly unselfish, taking what the defense gives him. And when they put 2 on the ball, he makes the simple play, gets the ball out. And now we're getting advantage, disadvantage in the backside. And, that's all offense really is, right? Is finding a way to gain an advantage against your opponent. And so, sometimes it's as simple as just finding a way to get him the ball, whether it's on the block or we put him in that middle ball screen a lot and allow him to, pick and pop and play with himself facing the basket to the 2-man game on the other side of the floor. But again, our guys have really stepped up their play and, gotten comfortable playing together and, getting to second and third sides of the floor offensively has made us really hard to guard over these last couple of weeks and has allowed Kondo to continue to impact the game in a lot of different ways.
Florida's now 12-5 overall, 3-1 in the SEC. Up next is presented by UF Health, and up next is a big one, probably the first of our many big games of the year still to come here for the Gators. And, Coach, it's a matchup with Vanderbilt on Saturday in Nashville. They just suffered their first loss, doing so on the road at Texas. And here we are, Coach. It's a battle for first place in the SEC. Here now, what would be 5 games in. Can you help us preview what you've got in that tough matchup against the Commodores?
Yeah, credit to Mark Byington and their program. They've had a great season, and they're not just beating people; they've been rolling people. They hadn't had many close games. Obviously watching their effort against Texas last night, I think that was the first game all year they went into halftime losing a game. So that was unfamiliar territory for them, and obviously losing their first one. We're not going to be able to go in against an undefeated team. But they're fantastic offensively. They played 5 guys that really understand how to play. They keep it simple with their ball screens, but they're always, they have good attacks for different ways you guard ball screens. If you drop, if you switch, if you ice, they're going to have some tricks up their sleeve to try to take advantage of those coverages. So we got to be mindful of that. I think on the defensive side, we got to take care of the ball. I think we're bigger than them transparently. So we got to make sure we impact in the paint, but the one area where they're really good is that they steal the basketball, and Tanner and Miles are really, disruptive on the perimeter, get their hands on a lot of drives and a lot of penetration, and they turn teams over a lot. They turned Texas over a lot last night, even though they lost. So taking care of the ball offensively is key, making sure we get on their shooters offensively. Tyler Nickel is a guy that we did a good job of in our building last year, but we got to do it again on the road. He's playing with a lot of confidence. And, we got to go in and see if we can impact in the paint, control the boards, and take care of the basketball. If we do those things, we'll give ourselves a chance to win.
No doubt. It's the lone meeting between you two, and it's at their place. Coach, that's a unique place to play. Memorial Gymnasium has a lot of quirks to it. And it's a place that's not just hard for Florida to go win, but most anybody. In your experience now so far, what is it about that gym, that setup, that you have to, I guess, overcome in some ways?
Well, the bench setup is definitely unique to say the least. The only place I've coached before where the bench is on the baseline, and you're walking up and down the sideline, but nobody else is around you. It feels very awkward, and it's tough to communicate with your team. It's tough to communicate with the officials. So that's the main thing that from my perspective is a little uncomfortable going into the game. But as you know, as we talked about, every opponent going in there has to deal with the same things, so it's not
Yeah.
unique to us, and we got to find a way to overcome it.
Coach, as always, thanks for your time and your insight, and keep this success going here. It's quite a run for your team, and I hope that you guys will be able to build upon it.
I appreciate it, Sean. Have a great week and see you soon.